Hello, and welcome to a new week of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. We are your source for messy, imperfect, secular, progressive homeschool community. I'm your host, Amanda, and my awesome co-host is...
Hello, I'm Meagan.
All right, so let's clear a couple things up real quick right off the top. This podcast is for all progressive homeschoolers, as is our Facebook community. It's called Homeschool Moms because, well, we are two homeschool moms and it's our podcast, right? Okay. That's it. That's all. The second, yes, progressive homeschooling does exist. Progressive homeschool community does exist. Here, we believe that Black Lives Matter, love is love, your body, your choice, women's rights and trans rights are human rights, climate change is real, and a whole lot of other things, as well as the fact that hate never made any country great.
Definitely not, right? So yeah, you can settle in and relax here at the podcast, in our Facebook community, our Patreon communities, wherever you find us. Just know that we're working really hard behind the scenes to ensure a safe space for marginalized community members and just a less stressful experience for everyone. Like, I don't know about you, but if I see easy peasy in one more group, like, right? It's like, I'm over it. I'm so done. So it's nice to be in an environment where you don't have to kind of keep this guard up to deflect some of the crap that gets spread in these other groups. So relax, settle in. It's an awesome environment, if I do say so on your behalf as well, Amanda. So today we'll be talking about Beast Academy, and this will primarily be an Amanda monologue because she's our curriculum guru and I am your quirky unschooler. And I think the universe was really looking out for me when we scheduled this episode for this week because I picked up some sort of bug and I feel like crap. So don't be surprised if you see me over here coughing up a lung or blowing my nose while I'm muted because Amanda's just going to rock and it's going to be great. But first, Amanda kicked us off by saying that we are your messy and imperfect homeschool mom friends. And that is true. We do like to keep it real around here. So we kind of kick off each week's episode with just a recap of our weeks, what's new in our worlds, what's going well, what's not going well. We will never gloss over the imperfect stuff and make you think our lives are perfect. So yeah, what's up with you, Amanda?
You know, for the most part, things are good. We're recording a little bit later in the week than we usually do. It's a Friday, and it is a Friday, right? I'm so confused.
I've been confused. I know. I'm perpetually confused right now.
So we're very fortunate. We're doing this kind of homeschooling journey right now, and we're world schooling. We're in Italy, but last week we took a trip to Cyprus and we recorded from Cyprus. It was good, but it was a very hard trip for me. And it left me really wiped out, which is a whole other thing. If you've been following along, you don't have a lot of health problems, and that factors into our life quite a bit. So today is the first day this week that I have felt somewhat close to normal. I'm very thankful to finally be feeling better. My brain is working a little better, and yeah, I'm not dreading trying to life quite so much. Definitely have more patience for my kiddo today. And it's just a bad feeling, right? Like when you're not well, whether it's chronic illness or a viral illness, whatever the case may be. And you just like, you can't be the parent that you want to be, and you're kind of short tempered and just like, can you just leave me alone? I don't want to hear another story right now. I can't, so I'm glad to be feeling better. Would the next amazing thing would be if it would stop raining here so we could at least get out for a walk or something. We didn't really bring great rain gear. We brought cold weather stuff, but not great rain gear. So that's been a little challenging. But yeah, homeschooling is going fine. The kiddo's happy with his lessons. We've got a good balance going. And so, yeah, generally things are pretty good here. I don't think quite the same can be said for you.
Yeah, I feel like crap, man. Holy cow. One of my kids picked up some sort of funk. My boys went to Birmingham last weekend to play in this huge Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And one kid brought back some funk and he's feeling much better. Not 100%. I still hear him coughing and stuff at night, but generally speaking, his energy levels are back and stuff. But he passed it on to me and one of my other kids. And the two of us just feel like garbage now. My nose is very sore from using tissues that are not soft enough. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I've watched a lot of Netflix this week, some of it better than others. I did finish, I was talking to Amanda yesterday. I was watching La Dolce Villa on Netflix, and I was like, this is so horrible. I don't think I can finish it, but I finished it because I don't feel good. And what else am I going to do? And it really was cheesy and predictable, and it wasn't amazing. But, so yeah, I've just been kind of doing that thing. One of my kids went on a college tour the other day, which was super cool. I was supposed to go with her, but because I had the funk, I was like, you're going to take this train and then walk to the campus and check yourself in and take lots of pictures and tell me all about it. So she went and did that. And it really was just like a very introductory level college tour. When she gets into, she liked it. So she's going to email admissions and get more information and get into more of the department specifics. Like, I'll get involved for that stuff, but at least she was able to go and kind of do the basics and whatnot. So that was good. But yeah, that's kind of it. We're just kind of doing our thing. So Netflix and rest and, comfort food and phone scrolling and whatever, because I don't feel good. So there's not much else
Yeah.
going on.
And terrible tissues. I was just saying, like, I really hope that we don't get sick here where we are, because I have yet to find any kind of truly soft tissue. I really like the kind with the lotion in them. And our grocery store that we go to does not have anything remotely close to that. I'm like, oh, this is going to be rough. The tissues they leave a lot to be desired. So
Yeah, my nose is very sore right now. So I'm super glad that today's topic is Beast Academy, because I don't know much of anything about Beast Academy. And we did plan for during season 2. So last season we did kind of an Amanda's favorite curriculum episode, and she did kind of an overview of Beast Academy. And so we thought, okay, well, during season 2, let's drill down into some of her favorite picks a little bit deeper. And so I was like, boy, did it work out perfectly that I don't have to talk a lot during this episode. So I'm pretty excited about that. So Amanda and I homeschool quite differently, which we'll talk about. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Take it away, Amanda.
yeah, right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I am the aggressive academic homeschooler, and I love curriculum. In our house, we have a fairly set schedule, right, for academics. And then there's always time for more self-led learning and fun like that. But we definitely have far more scheduled lives as far as homeschooling goes than you guys do in your home. And we have absolutely used Beast Academy ourselves. Did you guys ever do that? Did any of your kiddos get into Beast Academy?
We have not, no. So, I mean, I have 3 kids. If you're new to the podcast, my oldest 2 have learned math organically and are quite strong with math. And today's topic is not how to learn math as an unschooler. We can talk about that some other time. If you drop a bunch of comments and we find out that there's a desire for that, we can certainly do that. But I can assure you that it's possible. I mean, my 17-year-old went to college at 16 and took, college level blueprinting, which is, hardcore engineering and so much math, and just did really great. And my daughter, same thing. She's amazing with math. My youngest kiddo does enjoy formal math, right? That's one of the kind of misconceptions about unschooling, is that sometimes people will say in Facebook groups, like, what is unschooling? And somebody who doesn't really understand it will comment and be like, no curriculum or whatever. I'm like, well, not actually true. Like, you can totally use curriculum as an unschooler. Different philosophy. It's just about the reason you're using the curriculum, et cetera, right? But I do have one kid who loves formal math, but he takes all his math live on OutSchool. He's on OutSchool like 7 hours a week with an amazing, amazing math teacher. So yeah, so I don't really know a ton about Beast Academy, but I'm excited to learn more. And for a couple of reasons. Like, number one, I always enjoy hearing and watching somebody kind of do their thing, like the thing that they're passionate about, even if it's like something that I don't have a huge interest in. It's like watching somebody in their jam and just loving their thing. So I'm like, I always enjoy it when you get to do your thing. And I know you like it. So I'm excited to hear why you like it and learn more about it. So I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing to know about Beast Academy is that it is an entry level, like elementary math option. Okay. It comes from the Art of Problem Solving, which is a company that does all levels of math. It is headquartered in Southern California. So it's a popular math curriculum for mathy kids, specifically a homeschool curriculum for mathy kids, and then as a supplemental math curriculum or program for a lot of gifted kids who are attending brick and mortar schools. So it gets used in two different ways. And then they also have summer camps and spring break camps and things like that for kids who are in a standard school, but they want extra, or maybe their parents want extra math for them, right? Let's be real. So there's sort of two schools of thought when it comes to this math supplementation piece for gifted kids. And if you're listening to this for Beast Academy and you're like, well, we don't homeschool, this all applies, right? This is just a deep dive on what Beast Academy actually looks like because it is a very popular curriculum for homeschoolers. But if you have a gifted kid who's in a regular school of any type, a brick and mortar school, feel free to keep listening. So one of the two schools that I mentioned is Beast Academy, and the other is Russian School of Math. So we aren't going to do a deep dive into Russian School of Math today, but I do want to just mention it is more focused on memorization of math facts and quick, efficient recall of those facts, right? So that's kind of why there's these two schools of thought and how they break down. You've got Beast Academy and then Russian School of Math, which is a bit more straightforward with the timed stuff and the worksheets and drills and things like that. But it's helpful to understand the two schools to put it kind of all in context.
Oh, interesting. I've heard of Russian School of Math because we're East Coast based, but I didn't realize that this broke down into an East Coast, West Coast thing.
Yeah, throw back to high school and the whole rap thing, right? Or whatever. It's like totally where my brain went. Yes. It is. I mean, I thought it was interesting because we're based in SoCal. So Beast Academy was a pretty logical solution for us, and a lot of people talked about it. But a couple years ago, we went to New York City and did a summer program in New York City because my kiddo got accepted into this thing. And it was great, but I was surprised to find that so many of the parents there in New York City had their kids going to Russian School of Math classes. And I was like, oh, well, what about Beast Academy? And they were like, oh, that's a little like West Coast SoCal for we prefer the structure of Russian School of Math. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting that it's so very East Coast, West Coast in a lot of ways. So it is what it is. All right. So back to actual Beast Academy. The thing with Beast Academy is it's fun, right? It uses a comic book style for the textbook. The entire textbook looks like it's comic strips and it has these characters. You can use the paper books and workbooks that are like actual printed workbooks you buy, but you can also do the online version with the ebook. If you do the online version, you have monsters and it's a little bit gamified and, like it's definitely designed to be fun. So I think the important thing to understand is that a lot of times people recommend it for kids who are resistant to math because it's this gamified monsters, comic books, it's fun, without fully realizing that they need to be resistant to math, but also fairly strong in math for the most part, or it's not going to be a good fit. So just understand, just because it's fun doesn't mean that it's fun and necessarily approachable for all kids.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So the other thing too is depending on your style, definitely check out the books. The textbooks themselves, you can often get really affordably secondhand, or sometimes people even give them away at those like homeschool, like the curriculum swap days and things like that. And they're not too expensive. For me, I really like the online option because my kiddo gets immediate feedback after each question. And one of the things that we kind of found when we were trying other things was that if he was doing something that was a worksheet, and maybe I'd say, okay, do all of the even problems or do all of the odd problems. If he was making some kind of like basic error at the beginning and he repeated it throughout the whole worksheet, I didn't catch it until the end when he brought it to me to check. And then he had, just done like 10 problems reinforcing this like little mistake. So I really like the fact that online, after every problem, they find out if they got it right or wrong, and they always get a chance to fix it. So the first problem, if you get it wrong, you get a second chance to go back and double check your work and see if you can find what you did wrong. And like, I just like that for our learning style. And then the other side is on the parent end with the online program. if your kiddo's struggling with it, you can go in and look at the problem, and it gives you step-by-step instructions, not just like the written out like equations, but actually like a paragraph of words that you could literally just read. Like, okay, so now we're going to look at the blah, blah, blah to help you like walk through it, which is super useful because I was good at math. I used to say that I was good at math, and now I'm like, I'm not so sure because I struggle with my kids' elementary math. So, it's really helpful to have like this actual, it'll help you with no matter what they're learning, it'll help you help them. And I appreciate that. It is worth mentioning that you can do live Beast Academy classes through Art of Problem Solving. They have live teachers who do virtual online classes throughout the school year. And then there are lots of other places too, right? You can find people who are teaching it on OutSchool and things like that as well. If you don't want to pay it's not it's not cheap. I'll put it that way. It might be affordable for some people, but it's not cheap to do it through Art of Problem Solving. The full year is around $100 for the online access. So not cheap, but not terrible either for a math curriculum, a full year math curriculum.
Can I just interject too? Like, if you're new to the podcast and you're not as familiar with some of our other episodes, Amanda is a super offline homeschooler / just parent in general, right? They're not big on screens. So I feel like you recommending the online version for the feedback like that is like 10 times more powerful than the average person because you're so not a fan of online. So I just wanted to kind of call that out for anybody who's listening. Like, take it from the source. If Amanda says put your kid online, there's a really strong recommendation there. That's not usually her jam.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have any other set curriculum that is all online. That's true. That is very much not my jam. And the math that we did before was not online, but I do really like their online program. But again, right, I just want to make sure I'm really stressing this, and I'll bring it up a few times during this episode because I want you to understand this math is challenging. Okay. It is challenging. Now, there's a free trial. You can absolutely, and you should absolutely sign up for the free trial. Anyone can give it a try. And your kiddo might decide that they don't want to actually do this math, but maybe they just enjoy reading the textbooks because of the comic format. And that's fine. I have never, ever stopped my kiddo from reading a more advanced textbook or comic book style thing that's going to be educational. Then I'm like, well, it's a little over his head. Like my kiddo has been reading these physics comic books because he thinks they're really fun. I'm like, maybe he'll get something out of it, right? So if that's all your kid wants to do with it, that's totally fine. This curriculum itself, going all in on it, it's usually best for mathy kids. And again, it's super popular for gifted kids and for kids who do competition math. So just keep that in mind, right? And go in with those kind of expectations.
Interesting. I like that.
So if you're thinking like, well, why competition math, right? Like that's not something we do. I don't know. Did your kiddos ever get into competition math?
I'm literally just sitting here while you're talking. And I'm like, I wonder if there's like an online competition or if there's a homeschool program. I was literally thinking like, because I didn't know that you could do camps through Beast Academy. And I was thinking, okay, I need to Google that after the episode. I have one kiddo in particular who I think would find competition math hard to say, right? I think he would find it fun. But then at the same time, and I know you've talked about this before when your kiddo's on a clock, how it can cause a bit of panic. And so I think he might like it. I think it would definitely be worth exploring if I knew that it was an option and it existed. So yeah, my wheels were turning while you were talking. I'm like, competition math, that would be pretty cool for him.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is Beast Academy and Art of Problem Solving, even if you don't decide to go fully into the competition math, they have classes that are based on competition math. So he might like it from that perspective.
Yeah.
If he's not actually into the timed competition part of it specifically. But so one of the things to know that sets Beast Academy apart from a lot of pretty much all other curriculums is that, well, it does still follow Common Core standards. Generally speaking, the Common Core standards all get covered, maybe not necessarily in the same order they would in the standards, but they all get covered. It is less about memorizing and much more about actual mastery. So the application and manipulation of the facts. You're not going to see like timed multiplication worksheets or tests, like you're just not going to see those sorts of things. They're never going to go through the entire times table chart. Well, they're going to present it, but it's not going to be like a lot of other curriculums that have kids filling it out and working on that. They're going to make sure that kids understand it. They're going to do a few things around it, and then pretty quickly they're going to move into making sure they understand how to manipulate those factors and do other things with it. So again, if your kiddo struggles with certain things, you might need to help them a little bit. Or I know that at one point we were doing stuff with angles and triangles and the angles, figuring that out. And I needed to make a couple of extra worksheets so my kiddo could really work on that because he just wasn't getting it. And there's not a ton of like working on the memorization and like repetitive nature in Beast Academy. It pretty quickly goes into, okay, so you understand how to do this. Now, how do we manipulate that in real world things or in really challenging word problems or things like that? So again, certain kids are going to love that. Other kids are going to be like, what in the hell is this? You just have to know your kid.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's the important thing about doing a deep dive like this from somebody who actually uses the curriculum is to say, like, this is the type of learner that might appreciate this. This is the type of learner that isn't. This is what the day-to-day looks like. This is what the flow of the curriculum looks like, because that's all the stuff that's oftentimes missing when you're trying to make a decision. And like you said, the book is maybe $100, which isn't awful in most cases. But at the same time, like, I don't want to light $100 on fire if it's not something that's going to work well for my kid. If you're going to describe it at great detail, and then of course you're always available. Like if somebody has a question after this, come to the Facebook group, ask a question, etc. Right? At least I have a better chance when I spend that $100 of it being something that might actually work for my kid because I'm going into it armed with a lot more knowledge than just kind of basic internet research or trying to piece together comments in Facebook groups and stuff like that. So it makes tremendous sense. All right. So Amanda's got way more for us on Beast Academy, which is exciting. But we want to ask you, when you have a chance, after you've listened to this episode, if you could leave us a review wherever you're listening to. We don't ask for reviews because we're needy individuals who need validation and pats on the back. The unfortunate truth of modern life, right, is that algorithms drive everything. AI drives everything. And so the more engagement we get and the more reviews we get and comments and things like that, it pushes our podcast out for other people to be able to hear it, which is great because really at the end of the day, we enjoy tremendously making the podcast and talking about homeschooling and all that good kind of stuff. But the further our reach goes, the more community we can build around secular, progressive homeschoolers. It seems like if you're a religious homeschooler, and if you're a religious homeschooler who's here listening about Beast Academy, rock on. You're totally welcome here. But it seems like in the religious homeschooling communities, they've got church as the central point, right? And without that kind of gathering place and kind of commonality, it's a little tougher sometimes for the secular homeschoolers to connect and the progressive homeschoolers to connect. So through our Facebook group, our podcast, our Patreon, all that good kind of stuff, that's what we work on. So any comments, reviews, likes, et cetera, we are always so grateful for. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too to remember is, sure, you can leave a review, about the podcast in general, but if you want to leave one just specifically about this episode, maybe like, this episode on Beast Academy was super useful. It covered X, Y, Z. That's helpful for a lot of people, right? If someone is randomly searching and Googling and they come across a Beast Academy review, I know I look at reviews all the time and I'm always like, I go check the comments under a review. Like, is this a real review where they're actually going to tell me something useful? Or are they just basically reading off of whatever the company website said? Because I don't need that. Like I can read the company website. I need someone who actually uses it and knows how it works. So those kind of specific reviews are really helpful as well. Okay, so with all of that said, let's go ahead and look at the next kind of part about Beast Academy that I think is so important and not enough people understand. And that's the Beast Academy levels. All right, so it's important to understand that Beast Academy has levels 1 to 5. These are not grades 1 to 5, okay? Some people get through level 1 during what would be considered grade 1 or a school year. It doesn't have to work that way. And the levels are really not designed to be grade, like level 1 to grade 1. For example, level 1 says it's for kids ages 6 to 8. Now, I'll be honest, we did not do level 1 because it didn't come out until August of 2022. Beast Academy used to start at level 2. So we did other math before we started Beast Academy. But again, it's just really important to understand this is not a one-to-one equivalent situation. So another like personal example, my kiddo was technically in second grade when we decided to try Beast Academy. And part of that was because I was uneducated about how Beast Academy worked. And I was like, oh, level 2, he's in second grade, time to do it. But also, he was in second grade, but he had completed both Khan Academy and Singapore Dimensions math through the third grade. So I thought, well, we'll probably start at level 3. I guess we've missed level 2. But I had him do the placement test that they have online. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about that later. And it put him in level 2C. So there are 4 units or kind of 4 sections in each one. So A, B, C, and D. It said to start him at level 2C. And then I will admit that it was a bit easy in the beginning, but I think that there's a real advantage to that with Beast Academy math because they are going to have to think and manipulate numbers in a way that they probably have never done before. So being able to practice that on things that they are already fairly good at to help build their confidence before it gets harder is a really good thing because it does get harder and it will get quite a bit more challenging and pretty quickly at that. So I always recommend starting at least a chapter or 2 before you think you really need to, just to help build that initial confidence with the curriculum before it's really like, hey, you've never done this kind of math and you're not passing any of the lessons. Isn't this great? Oh, elementary kid is going to be like, I love failing every lesson. This is wonderful.
I mean, I think that's just, we're not big curriculum people, right? But I feel like that's even just great logic to apply to anything in homeschooling, right? Let your kids get their confidence and all that. As we're talking, I'm thinking, so my 13-year-old has a service dog, right? And when she was in training and stuff, we would get weekly report cards and all this kind of stuff. And the woman who trained her was amazing. And, but she would talk about the fact, like, we want her to feel successful. We want to set her up for success. We want her to feel successful. They can feel that. They can feel that, like, I did a good job thing, right? And it's so true. Like, that's just so intrinsic to living beings in general, that we want to feel accomplished. We want to feel successful. And so to start anything new on a level of frustration would just suck, right? So it's like, maybe just apply that to other things as well, right? You manage that line between starting them at a place where they're going to be bored to tears and be like, this is torturously boring, but also jumping in and throwing them into the deep end of being like, swim, I mean, it's finding that balance there. But I think too, and we see posts all the time, right? Where it's like, oh, my child is like so advanced in this thing. And so, and part of it can be sometimes too, that the parent wants them to be at a certain level, and it's recognizing and checking that within yourself, like what's going to be the best thing for your kid. Right. And if your kid is in third grade and it puts them at 2C and you're like, oh my gosh, that reflects poorly on me because they're not where they, and so you push them to be where they're not. It's okay. It's not a race. It's all good.
Yeah. No, that's it exactly. And it's even more important with this specific curriculum. So like I was saying, it's not a one-to-one. And what's really important to understand is that it goes up to level 5. Level 5 says it's for ages 10 to 13. And once you finish, you're ready for pre-algebra. There is no kid who's in 5th grade doing 5th grade math who finishes 5th grade math and moves into pre-algebra, okay? Like, that's not how math in regular math books works. So in level 5, Beast Academy, kids are actually learning a lot of the pre-algebra A or pre-algebra 1 ideas and concepts. And they do that specifically because it has been such a fun, gamified comic book style learning experience with no homework and, none of that kind of stuff. And then after they finish level 5, they have to choose whether they're going to go on to the art of problem solving curriculum or they're going to go into some other curriculum. But they want to set the kids up so that when they make that transition into pre-algebra and they're learning a new style of learning and a new type of curriculum, and they're having to do things differently, that it's a review of a lot of concepts so that it's not quite so challenging. So again, it's this idea of setting them up to have confidence as they start on their next kind of level of math. And I think it's great. I think it's a really wonderful way of doing it. But I think a lot of people don't understand that, right? So if your kiddo is doing Beast Academy and they love it, and you're like, there's no way they're going to finish level 5, even by 6th grade, it's okay. It really doesn't matter because whenever they finish level 5, they're going to go into pre-algebra, right? Like maybe as the curriculum, as the aggressive academic, maybe don't be doing level 5 Beast Academy as a freshman in high school because they're pretty far behind now at this point, right? But like it is not meant to be a one-to-one. So just please keep that in mind. And then as I mentioned, there are these pre-tests on the website. It has their paper versions, you print them off, and the answers, you're going to want the answer key. They're at the back of each test, at the end of each test. So they're hard, okay? Definitely pre-screen them and do not expect your kiddo to do more than 1 or 2 pre-tests in a day. So if you pre-screen it and you think like, oh, this is the right test, and you give it to them and they get 100% correct, maybe give them the next one that same day, but maybe wait a day because they're really using their brain a lot to do these. And the same for, you give them a pre-test and they only get 20%. You're like, okay, well, clearly that's the wrong level. We need to go back a level, maybe do it the next day kind of thing. I think, I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's like 70% of the pretest is what they want the kids to get for that to be the right level for them. So it'll say right there when you go in and do it, it's really easy to find on the Beast Academy website. But keep in mind, you definitely want to do the pretest so you know you're getting started at the right place. Different people handle it differently. I personally set a time instead of a number of lessons. And one of the things you'll find with Beast Academy is most of the lessons in a new unit, say you're starting in square roots, the first few lessons are going to be pretty easy, and then it's going to pretty quickly get much harder. So in our home, I say, I want you to do 20 to 30 minutes of math a day. And that idea is at the 20-minute mark, maybe even at the 15-minute mark, if you are about done with a lesson, then that's all, and if you're at the 12-minute mark and you finish a lesson, you got time to start another lesson. So that means, we're going, some weeks he's bombing through it and he's getting done really fast. And then other weeks he has to revisit the same lesson a couple different days because he just wasn't getting it enough to be able to finish it up in that amount of time. And that's okay, right? Because in that case, he gets the chance to walk away from a lesson that was frustrating, come back the next day. And a lot of times he's found that it's sort of settled in a bit better, right? And that he can do it much better with just a step back, a break. We talk about that a lot, right? There's a lot of times in life where if you just keep pushing and pushing, it doesn't work. And if you step back and then come back later, it clicks, right?
Yeah. You come back with fresh eyes, you're refreshed, new mindset.
Yeah.
Totally different. Yep, totally agree. We do the same in our house.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last important thing to understand, in my opinion, about Beast Academy and how Beast Academy works is the whole scoring, grading thing. I think this is especially important if you're doing the online version because you as the parent aren't doing any of the scoring or grading. You're just getting this report from the company of like, here's how your kiddo did. So this is a super common issue for parents using Beast Academy. To pass a lesson, you need to get stars. No stars means you didn't pass the lesson. And it's a 3-star system. So your kiddo can pass the lesson and they'll get anything from 1 to 3 stars. This is direct from Beast Academy, right? I pulled up one of the emails. My kiddo just passed a test. And so I got the email that has this breakdown on it. It says 1 star indicates proficiency in the material and readiness to tackle the next. 2 stars shows a more advanced understanding of the chapter's material. 3 stars is a sign of mastering even the most difficult concepts in the chapter. I would say at least once a month, I see someone in a Facebook group who is like, well, I don't let my kiddo move on unless they've gotten 3 stars. This is not how it's supposed to work, okay? Even Beast Academy says this, right? Like, it's 100% not how it works. I have attended several webinars hosted by the folks over at Beast Academy / Art of Problem Solving. And they will be the first to tell you that if your kiddo is getting almost all 3 stars, they're in the wrong level and it isn't challenging enough, right? The system is specifically set up so that 1 star means your kiddo has a proficient understanding of the material and they're ready to move on. Now, that said, I do see a very predictable pattern in the lessons. So say you're starting lesson 3.1 and you have 10 lessons in this chapter, this unit. The first 3 or 4 are going to be pretty easy and like foundational, fundamental things. Your kiddo might need to watch the video because it does come with videos. And then there's the ebook version that they can go read as well if they need extra or they want extra. But after doing those things, they should be able to get primarily 3 stars, maybe some 2 stars on those first handful of lessons. And then the lessons are going to get significantly harder. And you would expect to see them getting more 1 and 2s with the occasional 3 thrown in. It has been my personal experience that if on the first few lessons in the new chapter, your kiddo is getting 1 or 2 stars, they're going to have a very hard time passing the later units. So you will probably see a spread of everything from 3 stars in the beginning to 1 stars later on. But it should not be all 3 stars. It should not even be all, we require nothing less than a 2-star, right? That's not how it's designed. And that's not necessary for your kiddo to get a ton out of this curriculum.
Well, and not being an academic Beast Academy person, but just being a parent and understanding kids, right? It's also not really a way to get your kid to want to do schoolwork and enjoy math, right? How many and be excited to learn and try something new and all of that, right? Like there's so much psychology to our little humans that we go through life with. And that's not it, right? That's not a winning. Having never touched the curriculum, I know that's not a winning strategy just in general for kids, right? And really thinking about how it plays out in the bigger picture with what you're requiring and things like that.
Yeah. And another point that I didn't actually bring up that I think is just as important is that for better or worse, a lot of our kids have been socialized, especially if you've got a mathy kid or a gifted kid, to get the best score or to get the highest score. And so it's extra important for you as a parent to understand that this curriculum is not designed that way and to remind your student that they don't have to keep redoing a lesson until they get 3 stars. That's not how it's designed. They shouldn't be upset. We have 100% had tears in our home because he expected to get the 3 stars and he was crushed that he got 2 stars, or he thought that he was for sure going to get 2 stars on something and he only got 1 star. You only have to miss a problem. Each problem you miss, you lose a star, right? It's a very high, but it's our job as parents, especially parents using this curriculum, to remind kids that this is how it's set up. This is how it works. And I personally think it's a great opportunity for them to, like I said, start with the confidence building, but then also teach some resilience and that idea of just because you're gifted, especially if you have come from any other kind of schooling or curriculum, You're not always going to get 100%. And you're not always going to get 100% without putting in a lot of effort. And you have to decide where that line is. Do you want to put in the effort to try to get 100%? Or is it okay in this to be like, you know what? I passed. And in this situation, that's enough. And this is a great opportunity to be able to teach your kiddo all of those kinds of things, I think.
To be able to teach those things and also to teach it at an age where it's a safer age to learn that lesson, right? If they don't learn that lesson until they're much older, where the stakes are much, much higher, or your touch points with them are fewer because now they're doing college classes and you're literally, I mean, even if your kid is dual enrolled as a high schooler, you're not allowed to talk to the people at the college unless your kiddo signs off on it because of FERPA and student privacy and stuff like that. You don't want your kid learning that lesson then when you're not there to be able to intervene and intercede at the level that you can when they're younger. So yeah, hugely important to do that at a younger age so that when the stakes are higher, that foundation has already been laid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a huge part of why we homeschool. I know for myself, I didn't get those things until I went off to college. And it was really hard to suddenly realize like I was no longer the smartest person in the room and I needed to be able to bring a much greater skill level. I needed to have study skills. I needed to have, these kinds of things. I'd never needed those before. And I really wish that I had learned that at a much younger age. It would have been a significantly less painful transition. So I'm all about
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just as a parent, like the thought about worrying about your kid when they're off at college and that support structure isn't there and that pressure is so high and that expectation of themselves is so high, that can lead to some really disastrous results, right? That are really scary things. So definitely not teaching that at 8, 9, 10, 11, much better. Well, thank you for number one, taking the lead on today's episode so that I could sit here like a zombie and not use a ton of my brain when I don't feel good. And then number two, giving such an in-depth analysis of Beast Academy because it comes up all the time in Facebook groups, but I've never heard anyone discuss it to that degree and to that level. I would imagine if I was evaluating curriculums and trying to make a decision, that would be hugely influential in my yes, let's try this, or holy crap, this is so not the program for us. And either way, you need to know that. So, all
absolutely.
good.
I mean, free trials are great, but if it's just really not for you, that's just going to set you and your homeschooling back so much. When you pull out something, you're like, hey, let's try this. And your kid was like, what are you thinking? This is awful.
Well, and how many free trials does your kid want to go through in order to get to the thing? I mean, last summer, Amanda and I had our kids try 5 platforms, not with the intention of using them to homeschool, but we wanted to evaluate them as adults and then have the kids evaluate them as users. And, by that 5th and 6th one, they were like, oh,
it was great. It was loads of fun in the beginning. And then by the last couple, it was like, when is this project done?
We had somebody reach out to us about partnering with them. And we're like, we only partner with companies that we've used their product. So they sent us logins to be able to test their product. And I still haven't broken it to the kid.
Last week was so busy for us. We had a couple of weeks where we were traveling. It was so busy that I'm the same. And I was just thinking like this week has been pretty easy. We're getting back in the swing of things. So maybe next week is the week that I'm like, hey.
I think it's going to be the same for us. We've been pet sitting, which I've talked about. FYI, great way to world school on a budget. And so our pet sit ends tomorrow and we change accommodation tomorrow. And so we'll be at a hostel in central London for like 2 weeks after this. And so, there'll be a lot of like time in the communal hall and stuff like that. And I'll be working and I'm totally just going to plop them next to me and be like, I need you to try out this website and give me copious notes on your thoughts, please. So it'll be pretty good. But yeah, so the fewer free trials that you have to drag your kid through, the closer you can get the target, to the bullseye of the target the first time, the better. It'll just make your kid that much more amenable to go on the journey with you. All right. So we end every episode with a mantra. And this week's mantra is every child benefits from individualized learning. And it's the easiest way to make learning fun and challenging. And it sounds like Beast Academy is for a wide variety of learners and then also not for certain kinds of learners. So hopefully this review was a great way for you to kind of drill down and see if that's the case. And like we said, feel free, pop into our Facebook group, ask any questions. In our Patreon, we host a monthly Q&A. If you want to come and ask even more detailed questions of Amanda about Beast Academy, be like, okay, this is my exact kid. What do you think? Come. We would love to welcome you, and Amanda can geek out over math curriculum, and it'll be a great day for you both.
Yeah, or if you're a couple weeks into it or even a couple months into it and you're not sure if it's working and you want to come talk through like this is what we're experiencing, like we did it through the middle of level 2 and my kiddo's just starting 5.12, so he'll be done probably within a month, completely done with Beast Academy. So we've been there, we've done that. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm always happy to talk about almost anything, actually, if we're gonna get real. But
Yeah. Come chat.
Yep.
So, well, thank you, Amanda. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. And happy homeschooling.
Yeah, have a great day.